All right, welcome to Coding Out Loud. I'm JT, aka Nexe, and today we're going to be doing something a bit different from the previous streams. We're actually going to be building a real life feature for my SaaS product that I'm working on called StubSquad. If you're not familiar, StubSquad itself is a service for people who share season tickets with kind of a group of people and allows them to draft the games that they want most. So let's say you have season tickets with a bunch of friends to the New York Yankees, for example. Every person gets to pick their own games, but with StubSquad, they get to draft. You do a draft of the games that you want to go to, and everyone hopefully gets as many of the games that they want as possible. And so the feature that we're going to be adding today is on this page. And so this is when you go to create a new season. So let's say you've just received your season tickets in the mail, you'd go to create a new season. And so first off, you'd start typing the name of your team. So in this case, we'd say New York Yankees. I'm not sure why that's not working. Oh, I think I only got football and hockey on here, right, on my development site. Okay, so we'll use Calgary Flames. So what I would really like to do as kind of a visual improvement is to add a picture of the logo for each league. So for the NHL, there'd be the NHL logo. For the NFL, there'd be the NFL logo, that kind of thing. And so on the right here, this is kind of the to-do list of all the stuff we need to build. So I don't think we're going to get to all of this today, but we're going to attack as much of it as we can. So the idea is I have this idea of a class called a season. So we'll add this logo URI property, which will actually refer back to the S3 link where our logo will eventually sit. We'll create a new fetch logo helper, which will basically have a handle method that will accept a couple of parameters. So it'll take any model that implements this has logo interface. And so we'll have to create this interface as well. And then a path to once we've pulled the image of the logo down and pushed it into S3, it's going to need to get that. This is what's going to push it into S3. So we need to get the current public image path. And so the reason we're doing this with an interface is we already have a model that needs logos, and that's the teams, right? So when you're looking at Calgary Flames, you can see in the background here, there's the flaming sea and so on. So when I built that feature originally, I made it pretty brittle, and it's very specific to downloading logos specifically for teams. And now I'm realizing, I should have made it a little more generic. And so we're going to build this fetch logo class that will work for both. And we'll just have that interface, the has logo interface, implemented on both teams and seasons. And so that this helper class can do it for both. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to find and subscribe to an API service. So there's a bunch on RapidAPI that we can use. I think I might even have an existing subscription to one that we can actually use. So we'll have to go take a look at that. We'll have to review how they structure their data specifically when it comes to the league data. Every API is different, and we'll just have to figure out how we're going to be requesting that. Then we'll have to write the fetcher using something like the HTTP client built into Laravel to actually fetch the logo and then push it into S3 using the file system helpers that Laravel provides. And then basically have this save logo function just exactly does that. So it downloads the logo, pushes it into AWS3, and then makes it accessible to the front end. And then obviously we'll actually need to display the logo in the search bar for now. And so the notes that I've made here are that the function should just accept the season class, or in this case, the has logo. Has logo. And then should basically search the API results for the name. So this is what we're talking about, the public API that we're going to have to go and find and search. We also want to make sure that it runs every time we fetch a new season. So it should queue a job to run asynchronously, just like we have for the other logos for the teams. And then we'll also want to build some kind of artisan command that we can run to go all to all the current seasons that we have and get those logos, because otherwise we're going to have this weird time series where all the existing seasons that we have will not have logos, and I don't want that. So I want, pardon me, I want that to be accessible almost immediately. And then if there's time this evening, otherwise sometime in the future, I'll have to refactor our existing fetch logo and save helper, which is what grabs the team logo. But like I said, it's very brittle. And so we'll be taking some of the logic out of there and using it for what we're doing here, but we're going to have to make it a little more generic. And then whatever is really kind of specific to teams, we'll extract that to the sports team class that I have for the teams. So I guess without further ado, and the other thing is, like the title of the video says, we're going to do this all through TDD. So if you're unfamiliar with TDD or you're not super confident on that, hopefully you'll see a little more of that in practice, and we'll be able to go from there, I guess. So right now I've got Bun running the Vite server, displaying all the classes or building all the classes, because we use Tailwind here. And so we can just go like this. So we're going to go art, make, test, and this is going to be the fetch logos test. Okay. And we can go into code, and so fetch logos test. Beautiful. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need is to check first we're going to have to make sure that it has a logo URI property, which obviously it doesn't. So we'll do that. We'll build that first. So it has a logo URI. It has. Actually, we're going to do this in a season test first, I think. Season test. And apparently we don't have. Oh, we do. Okay, perfect. Okay, so test every season must have an end date. So I guess we can just put it right here. It has a logo URI. Okay, there we've got our blank test. And so we're just going to say season equals season factory create, and we're going to expect season logo URI not to be null. And I wonder if there's a BURL. There is not. That's too bad. Okay, for right now, that's good enough. So we can run this test, and it is definitely going to fail. Yep. Expecting null to not be null, exactly, because right now there is no URI being created. So first thing we need to do is we need to make a migration. So art make migration, add logo URI column to seasons table. Flip back to code. And we're going to say add logo URI column to seasons table. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to say, okay, so it's already got the table name of seasons there. So we're just going to say table. This is going to be string. Actually, yeah, I guess string logo URI and table drop column logo URI. Okay, and so for those who aren't familiar, what I'm doing here is, so in this database migration on the up function, this is what runs when in kind of the best case scenario. So when you run a migration, it's just going to do this up. And so it's going to add this logo URI column to the seasons table. Now, the down function is called if you do a rollback. And so what we're saying is if for some reason we need to roll back the database, just drop that column that we created up here. So we can now run that migration. Okay, and so we're good to go there. And now the next thing it's going to complain about is integrity violation. So because it is because it's not null, right? So the next thing we're going to say is we need to, in our factory, we need to add some kind of default value. So we're going to say art make, actually, we probably have a season factory already. Season factory, obviously we do. And we're going to say logo URI is, I'll just get a faker to create a URL. And now we have a passing test. Perfect. Okay, so now the concept of this logo URI is good to go. And so what's the next step on our list here? So we have, this is done. So let's say X. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a fetch logo class helper with the handle static method, and it's going to accept some parameters. Okay, so close it out of there. And we are going to, how do we want to do this? I guess we'll go app, helpers, fetch logo and save. Okay, so this is our current, this is our current class that is, like I said, it's very, very rigid on, you know, needing a team and that kind of stuff. So we're basically going to rebuild this functionality, but this time being a little bit better when it comes to it being extensible and usable by multiple different model types. So I think what we're going to do is we are going to first, we're going to go, okay, so we're going to add a folder in app, and I know this is in the wrong place. I'll just move it in a second here. So interfaces, move that into the apps folder. Yep. Okay, and we are going to create a new interface, and this is going to be has logo.php. And so this interface is interfaces. I don't know. They don't need to be namespaced. So we can just go interface has logo. And we're going to say this needs, I think I was doing some thinking about this earlier. So it needs to have just a single method called save logo. And so we're going to say public function save logo. And this is going to take in a string, and this is going to be the S3 URL, S3 URI after we've downloaded it. And we don't care about the return type because this save logo is probably not going to be doing much other than just that, so that's fine. Do we need anything else for this? So, because we just care, right, so it's going to call this save logo, which we've built here, and it's going to be the S3 path that it's going to be passed in as a string. Okay. All right, so we can save that, yes. And in the helpers, we're going to create a new file called fetch logo.php. And so this is going to be our new fetcher. So this, I'm going to namespace this for sure is app helpers. Slash there, yes. Okay, and so this is going to be class fetch logo. Really need to create a snippet for that. And so we're going to say, what do we want this thing to do? So when we call this fetch logo, we're going to want a function called handle, and we're going to fetch logo, yeah, with handle static method that accepts parameters, right? So the handle method is going to need a has logo, yep, model. and a path to the current public image path. So this is going to be like the one that the external API gives us so that we can go grab. And it's going to be a string of a public URI. All right. Now, I think actually we're going to put these in the constructor function construct. These are going to be, we will raise their visibility so that we don't have to declare them as public properties again. Okay, so when we create this fetch logo class, we're going to take in a model that implements the has logo interface, and then we're going to have this public URI. So now let's create, or did we actually do that already? Fetch logo test. Okay, cool. So now let's start building this out because TDD is fun. So we're going to say it can fetch a image from a given URI. A logo for a has logo model from a given URI. Okay, so we are going to say actually, you know what? Before we even do this, we're going to say season. Now, season test. I want to make sure that this is going to implement the has logo interface. Okay, so again, season equals season factory create. And one thing I'm not sure about is how Pest implements the a way to check if it implements an interface. So let's go take a look. So pestphp.com started interface. Oh, perfect. Okay, so just expect app interfaces to extend. Okay, so expect season. How do they have this? Expect interfaces to extend has logo. Okay, so this is going to fail, of course, because it doesn't implement that interface right now. So let's go add that. Extends model has logo. Oh, no, sorry, implements logo. And could I import that? Why is this failing now? Does not implement method. Oh. Oh, right, because it doesn't have a save logo method, right? Okay, Okay, so we're going to just create a dummy function right now, save logo, and just stub it out so that it actually does something. And it's going to right, take in the URL. Cool. Save logo string 3 URL. Okay, so if we've done that correctly, this test should now pass. Interface has logo not found. Okay, so PHP interfaces. No, we shouldn't have to declare a namespace. So why is that? has logo in there, what's it gonna do? Interface has logo not found. Okay, what are we missing? PHP interface namespace. I don't think that's. Oh, okay. They are namespaced. Okay. Okay. No one said that in the chat, so I'm not a complete idiot yet. That's good. So has logo. We're going to say namespace app interfaces. Oh. Now season. All right. Okay, so it's not bitching anymore, so that should be good. So if we go like this now and run the test, call to undefined method, season interfaces. Okay. Oh. Okay, now am I looking at the wrong thing here? Expect that interfaces as a function. Call to an undefined method app method. Test to extend. That's interesting. Test expect interfaces to extend. It does not like that interfaces. Okay, so this is pest 2, I assume. Get started. Am I not running the latest version here? Let's take a look. Composer JSON. Hide that, hide that. PestPHP, we are running version 2. It's interesting. Expect season interfaces to extend that. All classes within a given namespace. Okay, that's not exactly what we want. We want expect to implement. Come on. What are we missing here? Does it need to be the string version? So like app interfaces has logo? Nope. So it's getting the actual version. Unless it's not looking for an instance. Let's take a look. So app season. There we go. Okay, so now I wonder if it'll take the okay, and then if we go like has logo class, still works. Okay, perfect. That was freaking me out there for a minute. Okay, so it implements the has logo interface. So we know that season is good. We'll have to implement the functionality, but that's okay. So what's the next thing? So create a fetch logo class helper with the handle static method, accepts the parameters, and a model that implements that interface. Okay, so it can fetch a logo for a has logo model. Let's get rid of that. Let's say it can fetch logos. So for right now, we're just going to make sure that this handle method just exists and returns a void. So we'll say fetcher equals fetch logo. Class. Oh, keyboard's doing weird things here. Okay, so what do we need? We need a model. So we need a, we'll give it season equals season factory create. So it'll take in a season and then it needs a public URI. So for right now, we're going to use our own image asset until we figure out, I think it's just logo.png. No, it's not. Is it assets.local? Logo.png. Oh, okay, whatever. We will pass it a URL. Image URI, logo URI to make it consistent. I'll say this faker URL. Okay, and so what do we want this to do? We want to, why is that? Expected type logo, found collection model. Now that's interesting. We should be able to pass those around. Fetch logo. Oh. Yeah, I guess that would help. Use app helpers fetch logo. Why is it removing that? Because we do not want to define, we want this to be polymorphic and be able to accept any kind of model that or implements this has logo interface. So why, if we say app interfaces right in here, okay, now it's not complaining. That's good. Okay. Okay. So, expected type found collection. Now, am I misunderstanding how interfaces are supposed to be used? PHP interface. Right, so we've got the interface corrected. And so we've implemented it correctly. I'm just going to close this file in case no, it doesn't like it. So expected type, app interfaces has logo, found model, right? Well, the idea is that season is supposed to implement that interface. So is it not doing that now? Because what we want is we want both the season and the team to implement the same functionality of having a save logo ability. And so this is where it's going to go fetch the actual the logo in the correct place. So why is that not? So what is an interface? What are Zend is one of the kind of main contributors to PHP, or they used to. Okay, so right, so we've got the bird implements vocalizer, blah blah blah. Okay, so let's say we have a function as follows. Right, we should be able to say this bug function can be called with any vocalizer that implements vocalizer. Right, exactly. So it's implemented. This bird is implementing vocalizer. Oops. And so then the bird, right. Right. Okay. So my thinking is correct, and maybe I'm just doing it wrong. But the idea is that, right, if we are only worried about vocalization, we should not need to worry about whether or not we have a bird, a human, or an animal. We should just worry about whether or not we have something capable of vocalization. And the entire point of the interface is that this interface requires that, so there's one method called vocalize, right? So public function vocalize. So basically saying any class that implements vocalizer has to have a vocalizer function. So the bird implements vocalizer and has this vocalizer function. I think I saw a human one. Maybe I was wrong. Oh, vocalizing bird, right? So it's implementing vocalizer as well. So the idea is that you shouldn't have to worry about what you're really passing in, as long as it matches that interface, it should be allowed to be passed in. So what am I doing wrong here? So we've got, it implements the has logo. I'm using the correct one, right? So using the keyword implements has logo. The has logo interface has one function definition. So any class that extends or implements this interface has to have a save logo. So what is the deal? Fetch logo. Pardon me. Unless it just doesn't like it as part of the constructor, I don't think that should matter. Let's get rid of this constructor for a minute. And let's say use app interfaces has logo. Right now we're just going to return void just so there's something there. Oh, right. Void. Oh. That character. So this function literally does nothing right now, but okay, I guess it just doesn't like it in the constructor. Okay, so new fetch logo. Okay, so we are now going to want to say fetcher. We're going to handle that with a season, if I can type correctly, and a logo URI. Back to not liking it. Expected type, interfaces has logo. Found collection, model. Yeah, I do not understand why this is not working. Got a season. It's implementing the correct interface. Okay, you know what? Just do the good old thing and PHP expected type. found, and then interface. Type check. Okay, so PHP not accepting interface. No. Type operators. Interface, blah, blah, blah. And the weird thing is that, like, it's not even saying that season doesn't implement the interface or that there's a problem with it, because, and there shouldn't be, because we're implementing the one method that does that. What it's saying is that it's expecting that type. The type interface. Oh. Okay, so let's see what they say. So we've got this class of a BMW, blah, blah, blah. How do you do type inting for interfaces? And I don't want to extend any because we're already extending the model, the eloquent model. So we can't do like an abstract class here. So I'm very curious as to why this is having a problem. I'm curious if we just say expect. I want to see if this is actually a problem here. So what my thinking is I'm going to actually just run this as is, and we're just going to return 1 for right now, just to see if this is going to work. So we'll split that to the right. Let's go fetch logo and just say return 1. Is it actually going to undefined property figure? Okay. Is it a? I can never remember. They changed stuff around here with fake or how it works. Undefined method. Okay, so gotta import something. So we'll just, for right now, I'm just gonna make it a fake URL. So whatever. Void function must not return a value. Oh, right. Okay. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I'm going to say return model save logo. Now, good one argument. So public URI. Now let's go to this. The season, and we are just going to have this return a simple value. Okay, so it's going to call save logo. It's going to return this to the save logo here. And then this is going to return this back here. So let's see if it's going the whole way through the tree. Okay, so for some reason, the IntelliFence is seeing some kind of problem here. I'm not, maybe it's not IntelliFence, but something is seeing a problem here that doesn't really seem to be a problem because it's acting on the season that we're passing in. It's getting the season correctly. So I'm just going to ignore this red squiggly for now. And I might file a bug with them later to find out why that is. But for right now, I'm calling this a win. And I'm just going to keep moving forward here because this has been too long. So, Okay, so it's going to call save logo with the new path, which we're doing exactly. Okay, and then we can use some or most of the logic from the existing fetch logos and save helper. Okay, so right now what we've got is something that basically confirms that it will call this method, this save logo method on whatever we pass in, as long as it matches the has logo or implements the has logo interface. So that's good. So let's just say it can, or it will. I want to rename this properly. So it will return. What do we want it to return once it's successful? It will return true if the logo is saved. And so we want this to say true. Season. And actually, you know what? We're going to put this in the season test, I think, because this is testing the season specifically. So season test. Okay, so we're going to go say it implements has logo interface. It will return it will return true if the logo is saved. Okay, perfect. Okay, so if we say fetch logo this, we want, well, this is interesting. So is this functionality for season or is this for the, I think what we're going to do is we're going to say, I'm going to comment this out. We're going to say season, because we want to make sure season is saving the logo correctly. Save logo. And we're going to say logo URI. And we're going to say expect that to be true. I think that's actually a method that works. Yeah, okay. So this should work. It does not fail this. Oh, right, because we changed that. Okay, so season. And we're going to say, just going to assert that it always returns true. We'll add more tests to actually test for the URL later. But for right now, this test should technically pass. Okay, good. So then what we want is we're going to copy this. We're going to, this should also be true. Okay. So the reason I've done kind of multiple levels of tests here is one, for the fetch logos test, we want to actually test this functionality. This is more of like an end-to-end test because we're going to kind of call the fetch logo handle function, and then it's going to reach into whatever model is provided, in this case, the season, and going to do things, and then it's going to come back with a value, right? So what we're going to assume, or the API we're kind of building, is that if you call the handle method on this fetcher, if it returns true, that's a successful fetching, for example. And so we're going to actually improve this even a little bit, and we're going to say, so for the has logo interface, it must return a Boolean. And so now season is going to be wrong because we're not actually type hinting it, the return. And so there. Okay, so basically what we're saying now is anytime we implement the save logo function in any of our models, so in this case we'll be doing it with the sports teams later, it must return a Boolean value, and the Boolean is going to say whether it was successful or not, so that we can kind of test all the way down through the chain. Okay, and we've just enforced this by saying on this interface, anyone who implements the save logo must implement it as a Boolean. So it's not going to return a string, it's going to just return a Boolean, which I'm fine with. Okay, so we now have this idea of a very simple reaching in function, right? So it's going to call this fetch logo. It's being passed the logo URI, and it's going to fetch this logo. So now what we need to do is we need to say, we have this logic from the existing fetcher that I've built that was really kind of brittle, like I was saying, but some of it is going to be helpful, right? So some of the concepts at least are going to be helpful. So like here's this handle method, right? And it's going to say, it's going to do a bunch of checking. It's going to generate a file name. It's going to get this image and upload it to S3 and blah, blah, blah. If it's set, it's going to add it to the storage and all this kind of stuff. So what we're basically going to do is what I'm going to do is effectively just copy and paste this stuff, including this generate file name and get file extension here, because these are all helpful, and get image and upload to S3, because again, these are things that we don't need to change a whole lot. They're mostly good to go. It's just some we'll have to generalize them a little bit more. So like where it's being stored kind of thing. But we can, like functions like this image exists in S3, right? All it's doing is checking to see if an image exists. So, I mean, that's super reusable. But yeah, so we'll just kind of get working on this part now. So I'm just going to copy this entire handle method for now. And a whole bunch, actually, you know what? I think I'm going to copy all of this. And then I'm going to put that there, and we are going to close, remove those, and we're going to take in these values. Okay, so now we can basically get rid of that handle method. And of course, there's going to be a lot of red squigglies, but that's okay. For right now, we're just going to go through and start figuring out exactly what we really need to do with any model that's passed in. And a lot of this stuff actually is going to be duplicates. In fact, most of this, now that I'm thinking about this, so actually, you know what? I'm going to go back here for a minute, because I'm thinking about this. This fetch logo really only needs to reach out to the API, get the URI, and then send it down to the save logo. And that is where the functionality for actually saving it to S3 is going to live. And so we can make a trait later that will do that, so that we don't have to keep re-implementing the logic for it. But right now, I think actually what we need to do is just get the so find subscribe to an API service. So we're gonna put this over here, because really that's what this is, you know, this download the logo, push it into the S3, make it accessible to the front end. Yeah, this is mostly what that does. So this is actually, okay, so we can go, okay. So what's our next step is finding, subscribing to an API service. So I've got in RapidAPI here, teams, yes. So we want DB leagues. And in these leagues, let's see, how are we going to do this? So just all leagues. Now I can't remember. I don't believe this is a free one. So let's just go art tinker and go check. So we're going to say HTTP get that URI. I think it's just JSON, if I remember the API correctly. Okay, so you do need an API key. Okay. So we will, how do we want to do this? I think what we're going to do is we're going to cache this information for, let's say, a week. We'll download a copy, cache it, because there's a ton of information here. Definitely all the leagues I could ever want. So let's do that. So we're going to say it can fetch the list of leagues. And we're going to say function that. Okay, so we're going to say fetcher equals new fetch logo. And I guess let's go like this. Put it in a before each so that we don't have to keep making this stuff. So we're going to say before each function. Is it just the one? Okay. Okay, so we're going to say $sign this. Okay. So basically all we're doing is just raising that up so that we don't have to keep doing this in every single test. So it'll always create a season, it'll always create a basic URI, and it'll always create a fetcher. So now I can just go this fetcher handle. And so what do we want to do? We want to assert that it's making a call out to the HTTP to the API that we're trying to hit, this RapidAPI one. So we want to go HTTP fake, and so I can never remember the syntax for this. So let's just go to fetch NHL command test, because I know I've done it in here. So where are those? Down here. Okay. So we're going to also add that to the before each. Now, obviously these are all for the NHL, but that's okay because we will change this in a second. So we want to say this. And we are going to create a simple response. So in our fixtures, we're going to say generic. Say, what are we testing? We're going to say logos.json. Just dump that in there. Okay. And then base path. So what is it? Tests. Tests. Oh, actually, I was putting it in the wrong spot here. So we want to say that, and this is load fixtures, generic logos. And we will add this as a config in a second here. So we really want config services. Hide that. Third-party services. How do we want to do this? So we're not really ingesting anything right now. RapidAPI. We just make a new key here and let's just call it logos. And so this is going to be an array, and we're going to say logo URI is that. So now we should be able to say services.logo. Is that not what we called it? Services.ingest logos. Services.ingest.logos, logo URI. Okay, so just for those of you who aren't super familiar, what we're doing is we're basically saying, okay, we want to prevent this test from actually reaching out to any actual real life API. In JavaScript, this is kind of like faking out Axios with like fake functions. And what we're saying is, go look at this config setting where it's services.ingest.logos.logo URI, which is the thing that we just made. So it's like services.php, and then there's a key called ingest. that I have for all these different API endpoints, and then logos and logo URI. And so what we're saying is basically anytime anything tries to make a HTTP request to that URI and anything after using the star wildcard, what we're going to do is we're actually going to feed it back this fixture of this list of logos. So basically it's just going to get this whole response here. Now we can probably pare this down, but I don't really care enough to do that right now. And I'm actually going to want to use that for doing some negation checking. So like making sure that it's returning the correct league and not some weird kind of ninth tier league in some other country that we're not looking for. So I'm going to keep the whole list for now. So what we want is we want to say, okay, so how do we want to do this? What do we want it to actually, how do we want it to actually check? So right now it's returning a Boolean. Do we want it to return a Boolean is the question. I'm not sure, because how do we want it to check? I guess we don't really care that it can fetch the list of leagues. Do we want it to check it? Is there in the Laravel docs, is there a way to see if the HTTP method was called? And I'm not sure if there is. HTTP requests. What I'm thinking about is, or where my brain is going is to say something like, let's call this fetcher handle, and then what we would want to see is like HTTP was called, kind of like a mock. I don't know if we can do that. Let's try something here. No, that's not going to work either. So it can fetch the list of leagues. My brain is going numb here for a minute. Okay. Fetch leagues. We want this. Okay, so we're going to create a function called fetch leagues. It's going to do this stuff. And then we're going to say to be greater than 0. And what I'm thinking here is, and actually, okay, so expect. How do we, okay, so again, what I'm thinking about is like, okay, so we're going to call this fetch leagues. We also want to expect some public property. So this fetcher leagues. Again, I'm not sure if this is going to be the right API to not be null, not to be null. And so what we're going to do is we're going to initially, on creation of this class, we're going to say public leagues equals null. Actually, we're going to make it an empty array. Do we want to make it an empty array? How do we want to do this? Yes, we want to make it an empty array. So not to be empty. Okay. So again, we are going to make okay, so we're going to run this. This is going to fail, obviously, because we don't have a fetch leagues function. So as per TDD, we're just going to build this out based on the error messages. So first thing we're going to do, create that. So we're going to change the error message. So now the function exists, but it's greater than 0. But it's not greater than 0 because it's, so we want to say return again, build it out, change the error messages. Okay, so expecting blank to not be empty. So this is where now we actually have to implement the functionality of actually going to get those leagues using the HTTP call and then returning some kind of count, which is what I'm imagining this number is going to be, is how many leagues it actually found in the count. So we can now say HTTP get config. This is services.ingest .logos.logo URI. And again, this is going to be intercepted by the fake that we've created here, right? So this is going to see this call and it's going to say, oh no, I got it. And it's going to return back that JSON that we created. And we're going to have to import it. Facades, yes. Okay. And so at first, let's just, how do we want to do this? What do we want to put in leagues? We want to go leagues equals response equals that. And then for, actually, you know what? Let's just die and dump the response just to make sure it's actually going to work like we are thinking. Okay, so let's run the test again. Okay, so it did get 1,005 leagues, which is good. And here are all the different leagues that it sees. Okay, so we can say for each response leagues, because as you can see, there's the top level response is just this. It's got one value. It's like another associative array called leagues. And then within that league, it's got an array of 1,006 items, each of which is some kind of a league with some ID, a league, a sport, and some alternate name. So for each response leagues as league, what do we want to do? We want to say this leagues. So in PHP, for those of you who aren't familiar, this is kind of the JavaScript way of doing like a push. You just set an empty array value here and it'll just add on to that same array. So we're going to create, each array item is going to be our own kind of version of it. So we're going to say the name is going to be the league, str league. The sport is going to be the league, str sport. And just in case you're not aware, this is how you access properties. So we're looping through them. The league is the instance of the league that we're at. So the first one is going to be this one. The next instance is going to be this one, blah, blah, blah. And we're calling league each time. And so we're saying get the league's str league. And we're going to create our own array that has a name, a sport, and an alternate league, str league alternate. Oh. Okay, so then what we want to do is we want to say and what do we want to return here? We probably just want to return the length of leagues. So return this leagues count. I don't think that's a thing. Okay, so if all goes to plan, what we should be seeing is this value should be about 1,006 according to this. And the leagues should also not be empty. There should be values in there. And so actually, let's just before we actually get to the full working test, let's say DD leagues, run this test. So now, attempting to read property leagues on array. Oh my goodness. Sorry, I'm still used. I'm It's been a long weekend. Apparently, these are array properties, so they need to be wrapped in square brackets. And because we're giving the name of that property, that's how they wants to be accessed. Okay, cool. So if we scroll here, so it's looking like not a lot of these have alternates, which is interesting. I guess that's fair. Actually, did I see one with commas as in they had multiple? Yes. Okay. So what we actually want to do, so this is an interesting one. Okay. So we're seeing a couple of different alternate ones here. So this Malaysian Super League, for example. So the alternate, actually, I'll make this a little bit bigger. Oh, it's not going to let me. Darn it. Where did that go? So, okay, so here's another one, Jamaican Premier League. So alternate, it's got two different alternates in here and split or separated by commas. So what we really want to do here actually is we want to say, so the alternate is going to be its own array, explode on the separator, and this is the string we want to explode on. So now, if we run this test, we'll actually see. So a lot of these are going to have an empty array, but that's interesting. So how do we want to do this? We want to say, if there is an alternate, make it that. Otherwise, we want a fully empty array. So now these, So what's the first one? Premier League, EPL, right? Okay, and we actually want to trim these because otherwise they're going to have some weird spacing around them. No. Oh. So if we explode by the comma, is there a way to explode with a conditional? PHP explode conditional. Pardon me. So Okay, so we're going to have to do this in 2 steps, it looks like. So we're going to say this. We're just going to say null for now, just temporarily. So we want to say alternates equals, how are they doing it? So we got an array, and they're imploding it. Okay, you know what? We're going to be super verbose and very bad in doing this, but I don't really care because there's not going to be that many of them. So what we're going to do is we're going to say for each explode as alternate. And so we're going to say alternates equals trim alternate. Okay, so what we're doing is we're saying, so for each league, we're going to take we're going to set a blank alternates array. We're going to explode this list of alternates that we're given. Then we're going to append to this empty array a trimmed version, which basically just cuts out like any leading or trailing spaces, and then it's going to put it back. So we're going to say alternate is alternates. And to be grammatically correct, we're going to say alternates. So also, so I know that it's not going to, or that it is a multiple value there. So if we go like this now, you can see that that space between or before the EPL is gone. So that's good. So now if we go like this and we do that. Okay, so I'm guessing leagues 1 is, even though it's an empty array, it's saying it's a value. Oh, okay, so it actually does have one. So let's say 100. Is there any? Yeah, okay, so an empty array still has a single value. Okay, so that's interesting. Okay, that's fine. So if we go get rid of that DD, we should have a working test. And also we can tell that that it's not reaching out to the world, because we've also got this prevent stray requests method here. So what this will do is we'll just put some fake HTTP call in here, whatever, HTTPS. Go to Microsoft.com. This is just we're just gonna run this once. Okay, so if we try and run this, what in theory should happen is it should error out saying that the Microsoft.com request was not faked, and that the test failed. And that's just to make sure that we're never unintentionally reaching out to an API that we don't mean to. So, right, so attempted request to Microsoft.com without a matching fake. So that's exactly what we want. So we want, this just makes sure that we're always using the fixture that we downloaded. And the reason I do this is that all these APIs, they have usage limits. They're fairly cheap, but I don't want to run up a bunch of tests or run up a bunch of costs by running my tests a bunch of times reaching out to the real API. So that's why we got the copy of the response and implemented it as a fixture. So this way we know in the real world, as long as this API doesn't change their response, we know that we've still got what should be an active and an accurate test. And that's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so now it can fetch the list of leagues. That's good. So the next thing we're going to want to do is, so with this API, the idea is that we're going to have to get this ID. And actually, that's one thing we didn't save here is the ID is going to be ID league. And we're going to need that because the next thing we do is once we find the correct league, and so we're going to be searching this array for example, if we're looking for the NFL, we're going to be looking for this code, this 4391, because after, once we, 4390 is the NFL, 4391, sorry. Okay, so once we get the league name, we're going to have to drill into here and then pull out, there is a response here at the bottom. I think it's like the str badge or something. And we'll figure that out in a minute. But basically we need to do two lookups. First, we need to get the list of all the leagues, and then we need to get the specific league. Now, one thing I'm just remembering here is that I actually want to cache this response because, again, the league information is very rarely going to change. And again, save costs. We don't need to make unintentional requests to get the list of logos every single time we run the test. We can just cache this. So what we can say is we can go call the cache, just go like that. And so we're going to say, what's the signature on here? So Of course, it doesn't tell me. I think it is the time in seconds that we want to keep it. So 60 seconds times 60 minutes times 24 hours. That is not what I'm looking for. 60 seconds times 60 minutes, 60 seconds times 60 minutes, 3,600 seconds, right? Times 24 is 86,400. Okay, so 86,400 seconds per day. Oh, it is the key. Okay, so data expiration, right? Okay, so we're gonna call this league, and I'll have, there's a placeholder I use for some of these too. So league list, and we want a function that returns HTTP get. This is going to be config services ingest logos URI JSON. Okay, and so the way this works is Laravel has a built-in caching function, global method that uses a Redis cache behind the scenes to basically store whatever you want. And so why is this failing? Oh, okay. Now I'm just going to go to my fetch NHL logo, NHL command, because there is a point. No, we want fetch NHL season. Okay, so there is a point where it, yeah, so we need to go, right, so it's looking for the season. So what are we looking for here? So basically what I'm looking for is just a cache key that is unique, that isn't going to be overwritten, that isn't going to be overwritten. So league list, I think that should be fine. So now this would, so the way this function works is you give it a cache key, so just something that you store in Redis, the number of seconds that it's going to be cached for, and then a function to kind of do whatever you want it to cache. And so what we're saying is go get this this data. And actually, now that I'm saying this, I think we can't do the JSON here. We'll have to go response equals response JSON. Yeah. Just because when it converts it to a like an array, I'm not sure if that will work. Actually, no, let's try that. Worst case scenario, we have to go and delete that cache key and then try it again. So let's do that. Yeah. So trying to access an array offset on value of type int. Yeah, that's what I figured. So we're going to have to go like this. We're going to have to go response equals response JSON. And then because despite that, it's still obviously got the set some kind of cache key, we can just go cache delete league list. Doing here, delete league list. Oh, okay. Maybe it didn't actually get to save it. So let's try this again. Call to a member function JSON on init. So if we say cache league list. Oh, right. Cache remember is the function that we don't want to use. Okay, that should work. There we go. Okay. So what we're saying is basically call the cache facade or function, sorry, use the remember using the cache key of league list for 86,000 seconds. And then what we want to set in the cache is what's actually being returned from this closure. So in this case, it's getting this data from the API. I say that in air quotes because in our case, it's getting it from the fake. And that should be good. And so let's go like this. No, you know what? That's fine. Okay, so this fetch leagues to be greater than 0. We want to make sure that when we call leagues, so it's being set there. That's good. It's returning the count of how many leagues. All right. So now, what's the next thing on our list here? Okay, so we've got this. Review how they structure their data. Okay, so we've fetched the league. So we're going to say, when we handle this method, first thing we want to do is we just want to call this fetch leagues. So this is going to get the most recent copy of the leagues. Then what we need to do now is we need to say, okay, so now we have this list of all of the leagues, right? Which is what this fetch leagues does. We need to take the model name. And so in this case, it's going to be like, NHL or something. And how do we want to search this? So, okay, so again, here's what I'm thinking. It's going to pass in a model. The model with the has logo. So it's going to have the save logo. But I believe, now that I'm saying this out loud, we're going to have a common searchable name. And so what I mean by that is okay, so let's say we go into our database here. So we have sports teams which have a locale and a nickname. We have a season which doesn't have a name at all. And so I think what we're going to need to do is create a property, like a getter, that's going to be the logo search name, basically. So let's say public function. How do we? Laravel just changed their naming scheme for creating accessors and mutators. Okay, so we can just say public function logo search query, I guess, and needs to be an attribute. Right. Eliminate database eloquent cast attribute. Yes. Okay. So now if we go to the season, we now have to implement that functionality. So public function logo search query attribute. Yes. I'll need to import that. So we need to, what is it? Return attribute make, is it? Yeah, make. And so it's going to be a getter, and it's going to be we need so for the season, we actually need the league name. So this okay, so we want to take, right, we don't care about the value, we just need to return it. So it's going to be this league. What is the league's full name? Okay, so what we're basically saying here is when we call this logo search query, on this particular model, it's going to give us back the league full name. And the reason we're doing that is because the season doesn't have a name. It's just going like the year. So if we look at seasons, for example, there's nothing on here really to tell us what league it is. It just refers back to a league ID. And so that's what's actually going to have the full name that we want to be searching for. And then we'll basically have to implement the same functionality on the sports teams later when we get to that point. So now that we know that this will have a logo search query, we can say find league with the model logo search query. This is actually an attribute, so we can actually just use it like that as a property. So now let's implement this. So function, and this is going to take in a string as a query. And so basically what we're going to do is we're going to just go through the list of leagues and see if any of the leagues, if it finds any. So now that we have this, the fixtures, if we go to, let's go the NHL for fun, National Hockey League. Okay. So, so we're going to say it can find the correct league in the list. Kind of broke out a TDD there, but I'm okay with that. So what we want to do is we want to say expect this fetcher find league. How do we want to do this? We need to say this fetcher, because it needs to fetch the leagues first, right? So this fetcher, we're going to find the league of National Hockey League. And we're going to say we expect that to be, what do we want it to be? An array? Sure. Because what we want is this. We want this whole element. So what we're going to do is we're going to say for each this leagues. Actually, let's even go a step further. So we want it to be an array. We want it to have we're gonna league equals that. So we want league to be an array, to have key, let's say to have key name, and expect league name to equal, right? Because if we look at the fixture, logos.json, so we're going to be searching for this, what turns out to be an alternate name of National Hockey League. But what we want is the str league, or in our case, just the name, which is what's coming back from this str league, to be the NHL. So we want to make sure that our search functionality, when we search for a full league name of National Hockey League, we're actually going to get back the correct one. So right now, again, of course, this is going to fail because we are not returning anything. So it must be of type resource and given. Which one is it failing on? Stream. Stream is not seekable. Can find the correct. I just want to see if that solves the error. Where is it failing? Argument number 1, stream is not seekable. Where are we trying to seek? This fetcher fetch leagues. So it has to do with this. So why is this failing? Okay, so again, so it's guzzle HTTP, which is what the HTTP function uses under the hood. This makes me think that it's not actually faking properly. Cache remember league list. Is this one failing as well? It is. Argument stream must be of type resource int given. Fetch logos line 27. Okay, so it's actually this line that's causing the problem. So let's DD out the response and see what we're getting. Okay. Is there no body on here? So now we definitely need to what is the method here? Fine, we'll do it here. Cache. Forget. Just to make sure. I'm seeing in the chat here, what's the PHP version I'm working with? I'm working with, I believe, 8.2, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 8.2.11, the latest. Okay, so we can do a full JSON response in there, so that means we can get rid of all of that. This test should now run correctly. Okay, so these tests are going to fail, but that's okay. So fail to starting with the key as name, right? Because we are not returning anything right now. So we need to build a search. So we are going to say for each this leagues. Honestly, for a long time, I was a PHP hater as well. But with, yeah, exactly. Like you're saying with modern PHP, it is so much different than the old scripting language methodology or paradigm that it used to be. Being fully OOP and implementing interfaces, like all the kind of functionality that you would expect in a proper language, it has, and it's I find specifically with Laravel, it makes it so quick to prototype and build quick apps. I mean, it's just I personally I've fallen in love with Laravel. It's just so good. Okay, so as league, so what we're going to say is if, actually, okay, so we're going to say league equals null for now. And so if league, so first we're going to do is in the alternate names. If league alternates, no, because that's an error. This league alternates. No, so we're going to say for each league alternates. Man, it's been a long day. Alternates as alternate. Because really what we have in this structure is ID, name, sport, and then alternates is its own array. So we're basically going to have to loop through this array to see if we've got a match. So we're going to say if alternate equals the query that's been passed in, right, this string, we're going to say league equals found league. Found league equals the current league, right? And then we can just, what do we want to return? Actually, we can just return the league itself. We don't even need a temporary variable because otherwise we're just going to have this whole thing return null. Again, not super TDD because we're not checking for null yet, but that's okay. Okay, so it found it in the correct name, in the alternate names. So now we're going to duplicate this. We're going to say, can find the correct league in the league name. Sure. So find league, because right now we're not actually looking at the base name. Okay, so this is again going to fail, right? So for each this league, okay, so put it up here. If league name equals the query, then we're just going to return league. Yes. Okay. So what we've done here is search this this value. The other one we were searching through the alternates. Okay. So now if we go into our tests here and we go p filter, what did I call this file? Fetch logos test. Fetch logos test. All of these should pass, and it doesn't. Undefined variable season. What am I? Which line is that? 21. Oh, this season. And this logo URI. What are we failing on here? Logo search query must return a relationship instance. Is the season not generating one? Okay. Has oh, that's gonna be wrong, I think. So it's not has. It's what's the other verb that they use? So it's factories, and we want it's the opposite of the has many. So we want, it's like belongs to, yeah, for. Okay. So for. Okay, and so what this is doing, this is another awesome Laravel feature, is it's saying, okay, so we have a season, which in the concept of a season, it belongs to a league. So here's the relationship that defines this belongs to. And so we're saying, for this instance, just create us a league. We don't care anything about it, but we need it because this this idea of a season depends on it. So that's fine. So we're going to say fetch logos test. Must return a relationship instance. Maybe I'm wrong here. So season, wait, is the season factory? Yeah, so it is generating a league. So we don't even need this. So why is it bitching? I'll return true if the logo is saved. Okay, so this is the one that's failing. So logo search query must return a relationship instance. So this is this feature down here that we created. So this league should be returning its full name. Yeah, for some reason it's not. So let's see what it thinks is its league. So it is getting a league. It's from the table league. It's got a short name and a full name. So why is that not working? this league, is it not full name? I thought it was full name. Yeah, it's full name. Let's return a relationship instance. Now the other thing we can do is we can use the old style, get logo, what is it? Logo search query, get logo search query attribute. This is the old style of doing these. In this case, we would just say return these. Does that work? As logo, get logo search query attribute. Okay, so we'll just use the old style. I'm not going to fight with this. It's already later than I was hoping. So now if we run all these tests, good. So all of those fetch logo tests are passing now. And so what we've got here is from this handle method, we're fetching the leagues, we're finding the league. So now we're going to say this league is this value. And so this is going to be an array. And what we want to do is we want to say, so we've got the league itself. So now we want to say this. So this is the part where we actually want to go. No, do we want to? Yes, we need to get the URI from the second API call. So we want to say it can find the public URI of the logo. So now we're going to say, so we've got these, we've fetched the leagues. We're going to find the league. Okay, and then what we want to do is we want to say this fetcher get logo URI for the league. So basically we're going to create a new method called get logo URI. We're going to pass it this league structure, and we're going to use the ID out of that league to then go to make the second API call for that and get the actual logo URI. So we're going to say, pardon me, expect this to be, and we will go find that. Oh, no, it's going to be something different now. It's going to be 4391. Is this the NFL? Yeah, it's the NFL. Okay, so we're going to say an FL to be. So I think it's this one. Let's go take a look real quick. Right, so this is what we want. This is basically the whole thing out of this whole process is what we want. So it's going to be the STR badge. So it's going to, we want it to be that. Now, do we want to clean up that URL? I don't think we do. And I don't think there's any kind of URL. No, there isn't an is URL. Okay, so we want it to return the logo URI. That's all we care about, I believe. I think for right now, that's what we're going to get it to return. Is when we call this logo URI, all it should return is logo URI. Yeah. Okay. So again, run the test. It's going to fail. So there isn't a method called that. And so function get logo URI. And so it's going to take in an array that is the league. And so we're going to say the ID is the league's ID. And then we're going to call that second API. I'm just realizing now this call up here is actually going to fail because we're not setting the correct headers, but I will deal with that off stream because they have the authentication stuff in there. So for right now, we're just going to work off the fixtures, and then when I run the official thing, it's gonna yeah, it's not going to work. Okay, so that's fine. Get logo URI. So we are going to say, now, do we care? Yeah, we should definitely be caching this. So we're going to say league equals cache. And this is going to be, remember, so the key is logo league name. Yeah, that should be enough. I want to remember that for even longer. So we'll just say 10 days. Function. What did I delete? Why did it go crazy like that all of a sudden? Deleted and white space. What am I doing wrong here now? Let's say cache key. Yeah, that's okay. So we're going to say cache key equals logo dash league name. Okay, so what do we want this to do? We want it to return an HTTP get of that URI. We're going to set that as a service as well. That should actually be league URI and logo URI. Let's go back and fix these references because those will be incorrect. So this is going to be league URI. Yeah, because those are not getting logos. Those are just getting the list of leagues. What we want is the fetch logos test, split right. So we want the config for the services, ingest logos, logo URI. These should actually be leagues. So that's getting the list of leagues, and then this should be the league URI. Right. And actually, that's a good point. Let's change the name of the fixture. That's leagues. Right. What are we missing here? logo 70 saved. Right. Matching fake, right. Okay. So I'm just going to copy this whole thing. We're going to create another fixture of the league. This should be the NFL, right? Yes. Okay, so now the fakes, we're going to add another one here. League URI and league. I just want to make sure I called that the correct one here. So leagues and league, yes. Okay. So now we should be able to run these tests again. And there should only be one failing one. Find league to be array. Why is that failing? Did I not update it in the right place here? Did I call it something incorrect? Right. Now, do I need to clear the cache? Probably. Oh, no. Okay, so we're good. So pending request get. Yes, must be type string null given. So we're passing in the wrong URI. So, right. Okay, so this is going to be the league URI with what parameters do we need? The ID parameter. So it should just be that. So what we need really is this league that we've found, and we want to pass it in. So ID, sorry. So we've got the ID of the league here. And so now we want to go, what is the parameter called? ID. Okay, so ID equals, and then we're going to say dot ID. Why is that not liking it? Undefined variable. Oh, use. Okay, cool. So now this is going to fail for a different reason. Must be of type string null given. Why is it null? Logo 69. Services ingest logos. Oh my goodness. That should be here. Look up league ID equals. Yes. Okay. So this is going to fail, but for a different reason this time. Okay. Must be of type string null given. Ah, perfect. Okay. Wow. Okay. So failed asserting that null is equal to that. That's fine. Okay. So now we're going to assume, well, actually we have the ID, so we know we got a league. So now we have this idea of a league, so we should be able to DD this. If we dump this out, this should be the NFL. JSON league. And we got to clear that out. All right, tinker, cache, forget, logo, NFL. I really hope that's what it's called. Cache. Okay. So we've got this thing here. And so what we want to access is the leagues, the 0th element, right? Leagues 0. And we want the str badge, right? Str badge. Beautiful. Okay, so okay, so we can basically say return that. Now this test should pass. Beautiful. Okay, so we've basically got it to the point where public URI equals this get logo URI of the league. And so now we have a completely working logo fetcher that will now take the model and it'll go save the logo. So if we go into the season, for example, so let's close out of this test. Let's open the season test. Return true if the logo is saved. Okay, so logo search query. Okay, that's fine. And so here is where we would basically implement the functionality from our current logo fetcher that's basically going to take this this logo, and actually that should not be a S3 logo. That should be the public URL. So that's going to be public URI. And then we're going to have to change the as logo interface because this is going to save this public URI. We don't care about S3. Right. Okay. So to summarize what we've done today, we've basically updated our season class. That's this one here to have this property called logo URI. And so we did that by creating a migration. We created this fetch logo helper, which is what we've been working on for the most of this stream here, that has a handle method. And within this handle method, it first fetches all of the leagues that this API knows about, like the one that we pay for. It's going to find the list of leagues based on whatever model we pass in, whether that's a season or a team, whatever. Everything has to have this search query. And it's going to then get the public URI, and then it's going to return it's going to call this model's save logo with the public URI. And so we actually don't even need this functionality because all we're passing in is the model and it should do everything else by itself. So if we go back to our fetch logo test, because we don't actually know what that's going to be. So this logo URI doesn't need to be there. Yes, expect this. Right. Because fetch logo doesn't know any public URIs. It's just going to go call the correct method on the passed in model. So whether that's a season or a team. And so the leagues, it's going to know, it's going to cache them. It's going to create a local property called leagues with the list of the leagues that it knows about. Then we're going to find the league based on, I'm just realizing I made this very league centric again. So we're going to have to refactor this out to be more generic, but that's okay. I'm going to do that off stream. But this is a good first step. We can basically genericize this by putting some of this logic into the league and call it on the model, just like we did for this save logo. So basically all of this functionality we will extract to the league and then call those methods. Basically each method will just have some interface methods that this will call. So whether it's like find logo, get logo, whatever, save logo, all these things will be super generic so that we won't have to worry about, so that it can stay polymorphic like it is right now. So again, I just want to thank the people that tuned in, Code Spent for asking questions, and commenting on the PHP stuff. That's awesome. I really appreciate the interaction. I will be back next Sunday at the same time, 7 p.m. Mountain, for another stream. I'll probably keep working on some more StubSquad stuff, or maybe I'll do one of the coding challenges from Friend and Mentor. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.